Hello, I am Krystine Sherwood, the Beauty Pro Coach. I am here with Tasha Davis, also known as Auntie Hair Coach, and I am excited to have her share her story with us, what she does, who she talks to. And Tasha, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Tasha found me through Instagram, but then we really connected over threads.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell everybody who you are, what you do, how are you making an impact on the beauty world?
Oh, so I'm Tasha, also known as Auntie Hair Coach, and I call myself Auntie Hair Coach because I have been in the industry for 27 years now. And so a lot of the girls that I work with, I have children older than them, but I don't want to be like their mom, right? I want to be like the cool auntie. So
Oh,
the
I
cool rich
love that.
auntie, that's me.
Yeah, I love that.
I've been a licensed professional stylist for 27 years. I've worked behind the chair for all 27 years. So I am still currently behind the chair part-time. But after 27 years, my body's old and it hurts a little more than it used to. And so I can't go hard like I used to behind the chair. But I still love it. So part-time, I'm behind the chair 4 days a week. I do 2 long days and 2 short days.
Mm.
Um, and then in between that, I coach stylists who are younger than me. Really, for me, it's about, so like I was telling you before we
Mhm.
got on,
Mhm.
I got into this industry kind of on accident. I was not naturally talented at all. I had to work really, really hard to get good at this business. And it's because I had solid mentors who were willing to share what they knew
Mhm.
and kind of direct me the right direction and give me constructive critique when I needed it. It's because of those people that I've been able to sustain for 27 years. So coaching is just my version of giving back.
I love
You
it.
know what this industry has given me so much, and if I can just give even a teeny little sliver of what I've gotten from it, if I can give that back, then I'll be a happy camper.
Yeah. Who are the top three most influential people, whether they're your mentors or just celebrity hairstylists? Like who are your three models?
um Well, so the first model is her name is Amy Meyer. She's not a celebrity. She is still a stylist. She's not a celebrity. She's a stylist. She works in Florida. And she's the person that actually inspired me to go to cosmetology school in the first place. So I went to college to be an elementary school teacher. And I was about 2 semesters away from graduation when I realized I didn't even really like kids. So
Already a hairdresser.
that's kind of a big deal. And so my friend Amy, she always knew she wanted to be a hairstylist. From the time she was a little girl, she always knew she wanted to be a hairstylist. When we look at like how stylists are branding themselves and all of that now, she was doing that in the 90s when we were in high school. Like she's everything that I see in the industry now, she's always been that.
Okay.
And so by the time I was realizing that I didn't like kids and I was going to have to find a new career, she had gone straight into cosmetology school from high school, graduated, moved to Florida. She's having a house built on the beach. So by the time I realized that I don't want to do this career that I've chosen, she's in Florida living her best life, living on the beach, like living her best life.
Hmm.
And so it literally was just like me being like, okay, I need to get my life together. Like I need to
Hmm.
find some sort of career. And
Hmm.
I'm a beach girl. If beach bum could be a career, that's what I would choose to do.
I love
Um,
it.
and so I'm like, I want a house on the beach. And so I just went to cosmetology school because she did, and it seemed to be working for her. And I always say that if I had known how much math and science was involved, I never would have gone to cosmetology school because those are not my strong suits. But I had already dropped out of college and I didn't want to then turn around and drop out of cosmetology school. So I'm like, forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and like knock this out because it'll
Hmm.
like give me something to do while I try and figure out my life. Right. So
Hmm.
like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it and then graduate and then I'll figure out what my next step is going to be. And so I went. I was a terrible student, but I went and graduated, and not like the theory of it, it was all A's across the board. Like theory and book work that's easy peasy for me.
Mhm.
But the practical part of it was not easy for me, and I skipped school more than anything. Um,
Sasha.
just just keeping it real.
I
I
love
skipped
it. I love it.
skipped a lot of school and went home and watched The Price is Right. R.I.P. Bob Barker. I'm
I
not even
know.
kidding.
Poor Bob.
And so yeah, so I'm like, fine, I'll do it and I'll figure it out. And then luckily, this woman named Beth Pinkston was working for a company at the time was called Chicago Haircutting Company. They don't exist anymore. But she was just, for whatever reason, she saw something in me and she recruited me hardcore. And so I went there when I graduated, and luckily had a manager that was invested in me, Leslie, wherever she is. I don't know where she is, but she was invested in seeing me be successful. And yeah, so the first person was
I
Amy
love that.
Meyer. And then I think the next person that really inspired me, and he was actually my very first podcast interview, was Shannon King.
Wow.
And at the time, he worked for a company called Hair Cuttery that still exists, but he was a platform artist for Redken. And so, about 2 years into my career, um, the company, Chicago Haircutting Company, got bought out by Hair Cuttery, this
Mm.
company, Hair Cuttery. And Hair Cuttery at the time was using Miss Clairol hair color, which is crazy. Um, and so at the same time that they bought our salons, there were 30 of our little small chain. At the same time they bought those salons, they decided to switch all of their salons to Redken hair color. And they had 800 salons. So they needed to train color educators so that they could like send us
Mm.
all out into the world to
Right.
teach hair color to all these 800 plus salons. Um, and so I didn't have a clue about hair color, but I figured, what the heck? I went, I tried out and I made it and they trained me. And then I ended up going to work at the Chicago Midwest Hair Show as an assistant to the platform artists that were on stage. And I was Shannon King's assistant. And Shannon is this big black guy. He's like, when you think, and now it's 2023, so what we
Right.
think of as a stylist now is very, very different, but this is 1998, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about what a hairstylist looks like, not a barber, a hairstylist,
Uh-huh.
I did not picture this. He did not look like what I pictured a hairstylist to look like.
Right.
um and so I went and I worked, and I remember that very first day I cried my eyes out because I was just so, it was happy tears. I was
Yeah.
just so overwhelmed by the moment, like the bigness of this moment. It was like I knew that that moment was transformational for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a crazy weekend. We worked 3 days. Like one of the days, the water went out. And so my job is to prep all of his color models that he's using on stage. So
Right.
the water goes out in the hotel.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So we're rinsing hair color out of hair models with water bottles because there's no water. It was just crazy. So anyway, so Shannon King is the second person. You'll find I tend to go off on these tangents.
I love
Um,
this. I love it though. No
so
worries.
here's the second person. So I was at it's called the Textured Hair Elevated Summit. Last
Okay.
summer was the first one. It's coming up again here in October, but it was the first one, and he was an artist on stage. And I never knew his last name. I knew his name was Shannon, but I just didn't remember his last name. And so over the years, I've always wondered about him. So mind you, this is 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd always wondered about him, but I didn't know how to look him up because I didn't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then I go to this hair show last summer, and he still works for Redken, and he's up working on that stage. And as soon as
Oh,
I saw him, I knew it was him. So I got to pull him aside and actually tell him in person like what his presence at that time meant to me. And so that was super cool. So he's my second person.
I love that.
Um, And then my third person is Tippy Shorter because she's just a rock star. She's one of the women who founded the Texture Hair Elevated Summit.
Mm.
Actually, it's probably a tie between her and Kia Neal, actually, now that I think about it. And they're just inspiring. They're Black women
Yeah,
who are rock stars in this industry, who speak their mind. They don't hold any punches. I just
love
love
it.
it.
No,
I
I do
love it.
too.
Yeah.
I love that too. So what do you do behind the chair? Because I know you have these fabulous locks right now. So do you
Yeah.
do that?
So I do not do that. I do not do that. In fact, I don't even do my own hair. I hate doing my hair. I'm a hairstylist that hates doing their hair, hates having their hair done. I hate it. So locks works for me. I call it wake and shake.
I love it. Oh, I love that.
So no, I'm a cut and color specialist. So um I fantasy colors are my absolute favorite thing. If I could just make unicorns and rainbows and mermaids every day, that's what I would do.
Hmm.
And I do a lot of it, but also I do lots of root touch-ups. I do lots of color transformations, and then hair cutting on. So cut and color on any texture of hair, bring it
Yeah,
on.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So thank you for sharing all like I wanted to know your three influential people, but you shared so much of your story too that
Yeah.
that was perfect.
Awesome.
So what was like a struggle that you overcame to become who you are today?
Um, which struggle would you like?
It could be anything. It
So
could be
many
personal.
struggles.
It could be your
Yeah.
personal. It could be professional. It could be your biggest failure. I just want to know.
Yeah. I think probably the biggest struggle would be, like we were talking about before, overcoming imposter syndrome
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that, I don't have to look like the industry standard, right? There's enough
Mm-hmm.
people who look like that, and that I'm made perfectly as I am, and to come as I am because there are people who need to see me looking the way that I look
Mm-hmm.
and accepting me looking the way that I look. There are people in this industry that need that side of the industry too, right? Like everybody can't be skinny with blonde hair and blue eyes, right? Like,
Yes.
um,
Yep.
so I think that probably, I would say that was probably my biggest struggle because that's mental, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a mental struggle.
Right.
So just coming to peace and coming to terms with that would probably be my biggest struggle. Um, on a personal note, and I'm going to share this because I bet that there are stylists that have experienced this or need to hear this. When I was in cosmetology school, I was in an extremely abusive relationship.
Mm.
And, when you're in the salon, like your clients care about you to an extent, right? But they don't want to hear your crap.
Right. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, exactly.
They care, but they don't really care, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
if they do want to hear it, it's just because it's entertaining. Like, oh, let me just
right,
focus on what's going on there. But yeah.
right, yeah. So I think, um, I shared from a professional standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, having that going on in the background and then still showing up and being professional and keeping my private things private, and focusing on my customer because that's what they're there for, is
Mm-hmm.
to be the center of attention. I would say that was a huge hurdle that I crossed. And, that's been many years ago. I'm married to my current husband for 21 years next month,
Yeah.
actually. So that's been many, many years ago. But um, yeah, I think that was a struggle that I overcame also
Yeah.
to get,
And
and
that's a
it's a huge part of who I am today. It's a huge reason why boundaries are important to me. And you'll hear me, talk about boundaries all the time. And it's a huge reason why clear communication is important to me. You know what I mean? I think it's a huge part of who I became after the fact.
Mm-hmm. And I do talk about this too in other episodes of the podcast, but I find that for us, beauty and barber pros, we are always in, and I don't know how true this is in other industries, but I feel like we all have that one super abusive, toxic relationship that just rocks our worlds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, why do you think we have that particular problem in this industry?
I think that more often than not, hairstylists also tend to be people pleasers,
Mm-hmm.
and that people pleasers tend to attract takers. Um, yeah,
Do you
that's it.
think, do you think, done. That's it. Next question.
Yeah,
Um, do
I
you
do. I think
think,
that's it.
do you think we also do that as for clients too? Like we'll attract those clients that just drain the crap out of us?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do until you don't, because like once
Mm-hmm.
you've had enough and you start to draw clear boundaries, and this is something I was just sharing with the coaching client this morning, that once you start, yes, is the answer to your question,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. But that it doesn't always have to be that way, and that you'll find that once you start drawing clear boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
that some of those people will just fall to the wayside. And I think that we get so caught up in like we have to do all of these clients and we're afraid to lose even a single client. But the reality is, if this person is draining your energy and like sucking you dry,
Mm-hmm.
they're creating this moment where they're taking up space. For one, like, get off my book so somebody
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy spending time with
Yeah.
can sit here. um yeah, I don't know, I think I went off on a tangent and I forgot where I was going with that, but
No, but I got it. We got it. We got it. Yeah, like I feel like a lot of our what's going on in our personal life just coincides with our professional life. Like I can't even begin to tell you how many times like both of them just mirror each other, you know? And as a salon and spa owner myself, and even as a coach, like you just can't help but to see the reflection, you know?
absolutely.
So with that, so you are a stylist, you are a coach. So what do you offer your clients, and how do you make your money?
So the way that I make my money obviously is majority behind the chair
Mm-hmm.
currently, but I also consider myself an educating stylist. So when clients are sitting in my chair, like I mentioned earlier, they don't care about what's happening in my personal life, right? Like, sure, we'll talk about, oh, I just bought a house and I'm moving and life is chaotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 99.9% of the conversation centers around them, their hair, what issues are you having and how can I solve them? So that's how I make my money. And then I do one-on-one coaching sessions. I'm actually moving into um, consulting with
Okay.
salon owners, because a
Cool.
part of my background is I've been self-employed for the last 12 and a half years. But
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, I have lots of salon management experience. And I was an area manager for a chain. So I oversaw 10 salons for about 7.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of salon management experience. And so yeah, I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with individual stylists, but I'm also in the process of pivoting and helping salon owners, specifically salon owners who are not licensed cosmetologists, because that's a whole different level.
Oh my God,
that's
yes.
that's another bag of
It's
stuff, right? It's one thing to
totally.
be a salon owner when you also are a stylist. It's a whole different thing to be a salon owner and not a stylist,
Mm,
because stylists, we communicate differently, we respond differently. It's not the
yeah,
business world. So
right.
the majority of my money is made behind the chair, but like I said, I'm in a pivot. So
Yeah.
um, definitely there'll be some salon business consulting, um, and more one-on-one coaching.
So what's a really important strength or trait that these salon owners who are not stylists, what have you found that the trait or the strength is that they need to have to be successful, to run a good team, to be a leader?
I think solid communication skills is probably that's probably going to be the biggest one. And I'll go off on another quick little tangent. You'll have to
Yeah,
remind me what I was talking
it's
about.
fine.
But so I mentioned that I was an area manager
Yeah,
for a chain. I had 10 salons all over central Indiana that I was responsible for. And prior to this job, I had always swore that I would never work for someone who was not a hairstylist. Because if you haven't lived this life, you can't understand this life. So
mm-mm.
I always swore I'd never work for someone that wasn't a hairstylist. But I was moving from Illinois to Indiana. I had just come off of a really successful couple of years for the company that I was working for in Illinois. And so I was talking to my district manager and giving her my notice, like, hey, in about 3 months, I'm moving. And she's like, oh, I have a friend who just bought a chain. You've got to call him, da da da. Well, he's not a hairstylist. He's an engineer and his wife is a social worker. So I'm already kind of feeling some kind of way
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, well, I'll just go talk to him. We'll see. Well, I talked to him and I did end up going to work for them. But I remember, well, first of all, the first couple of years were amazing. I worked for them for 7.5 years. The first couple of years were amazing because something about taking something that's doing really bad and building it up into something really good, I love
Yeah.
that. And then
Yes.
after that, I'm kind of over it and I want to pass the rail, and move on. I like the building up, which is probably another reason why I was attracting fixer uppers.
Oh, oh, what a good point.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so toxic. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit.
um, so about 2.5, 3 years in, I was trying to figure out like one of two things. Either this guy is dumb, which I mean, he's an engineer, he's not dumb,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or he's purposely trying to sabotage me, but this is his business. So that also doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But it's like
Right.
literally one of those two things. Those are really the only options.
Right.
Um, so I spent the last part of that gig like praying every day that today would be the day that I would get fired so that I could just collect unemployment while I figured out my life because
Oh
it was
God.
miserable. And it was mostly because he was terrible at communication. He's very passive aggressive. And I'm somebody that I need for you to speak to me clearly. Tell me what you want in
Mm-hmm.
clear, uncertain terms. And I will make that happen for you. But like being passive aggressive or like telling me one thing and then doing another or going behind my back and telling stylists, I'm going to do this, this, and that, but not telling me. And so then I come and they're like, well, he said he's going to do X, Y, Z, and it's been 6 months. And this is the first I've heard of it. You know what I mean? So clear, honest communication, absolutely
Mm-hmm.
number one final answer.
That's what these owners need. Absolutely. What do you think it is? Because you're not the only one that I've
Mm-hmm.
heard this about, like especially the passive aggression.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're an engineer, and the other one's, what did you
Mm-hmm.
say, a social worker?
Social
Like,
worker.
why are you being so
Yeah. Yeah.
catty? Just tell me, what is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I don't know. And I'm at the stage of my career where I don't even care. Like that's a you problem.
Yeah. But
That's a you problem.
so many stylists and estheticians,
Mm-hmm.
they have, I mean, I know for me early on in my what is it, entrepreneurship journey, like I know I was passive aggressive and I look back on those days and I'm like, oh my God, good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy they left because I would have left too. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
actually wanted to learn. So I wonder about these owners What is missing for them to want to grow into better people?
I mean, I think people are people, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we're all just humans trying to be better
Yeah.
today than we were yesterday. And some of us are more willing to do the personal work for personal growth than
Mm-hmm.
other. I think some people just think they don't need to grow,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I mean, what a miserable existence if you're not growing,
Right.
right?
Right. If you don't grow,
Um,
you're dying.
yeah, yeah.
There's
I mean,
one,
literally.
like one way.
Literally. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. And so if I'm talking to an owner and
Mhm.
we're doing the assessment of their business, I want to come in and I want to be a part of that environment so that I can see how are you communicating with your
Mhm.
staff and
Okay,
how
good.
are they responding to you? Are they hearing you? Or are they passive aggressively like not hearing you? You know what I mean? I want to
Hmm.
be in the middle of it. I want to see what's happening so we can figure out why it's happening so we can find another way. But
So
yeah,
walk me through this process. How do you what is it, what's the process look like when you have a salon owner who is hiring you? How does this work? How does it go with you?
so I have not done it yet. Like I said, this is something that
Okay.
I'm pivoting into, but I can tell you how I envision it.
Yes, let's do it.
How I envision it actually is for me to be hired into their salon as a stylist. The salon employees do not need to know that I'm there as a consultant for the owner.
Oh my
And
God.
it's not about me coming in and trying to snitch on stylists. That's not a thing, that's not going to happen. But it's about me experiencing the onboarding process and what that looks like, the training process. What does that look like? What is your communication style with your stylist? And and by the stylist not knowing that I'm in there as a consultant, I get to see them as themselves, right? They're not putting on for me like we're stylists working in this salon together,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Undercover work. This is cool.
exactly. I mean, exactly. Kind of like undercover boss, right? But not because
Yeah.
I'm not a boss. I'm just here
Right.
to be the eyes and ears. And so I do that for a period of time. And I feel like it's beneficial for the owner too, because A, you get another stylist and they're working, and I'm an extremely productive stylist. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm just
Hmm.
always the top stylist everywhere I work. So I'm basically kind of helping to pay for myself, right? Because I'm an
Hmm.
income producing stylist. Um, but again, I'm integrated into all of the things in here
Hmm.
so that I can see all of the working pieces. So we do that for a contracted amount of time. And then I write you a report. This is what I saw. These are the changes that I would, suggest. These are,
These are
yeah,
great. This is
yeah,
so cool. I am so excited for you and these
yeah.
owners and even the stylists because they, you don't know who's watching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't know. That's the same thing with
Mm-hmm.
clients. Like when they walk in, you
Mm-hmm.
don't know if they, even though they look like a bum, if they're a millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
You
That's
know,
fact. That's fact.
it's usually the millionaires who look like bums anyway.
That's facts. Let me tell you another story.
Yes, do it.
So I told you that my first salon was called Chicago Hair Cutting Company,
Yeah.
and they sold to a company called Hair Cuttery. The guy that owns Hair Cuttery, his name is Dennis Ratner. He and his brother is his silent partner. Between them, own over 800 salons in the United States. They were actually featured on The Apprentice back when Donald Trump was hosting The Apprentice. He was like one of the guys that did, they would have the challenges.
Yeah.
So Hair Cuttery was featured on The Apprentice and Dennis Radman.
No
Dennis.
way.
Okay. So when they bought our company, they had a meeting because they wanted to introduce themselves and just be like, hey, we're the new owners. We're going to be,
Yeah.
here's all the changes, blah, blah, blah. So we all go to, we all met, I was living in Illinois at the time. So we all meet up in Chicago. There's 30 salons. We all meet up in Chicago to go to this banquet so we can meet the new owner. So prior to the banquet starting, everybody's just kind of hanging out. We're in a hotel. We're all just kind of hanging out in the lobby, chatting. We've got our drinks and we're, just mingling. And hairstylists, we're an eccentric bunch, so everybody looks how they look,
I
right?
love it. Yes, I do.
So this guy is just like floating around from, circle to circle, just intermingling and because there's 30 salons and they're spread out all over the state, we don't know everybody. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
You just go in, blah, blah. Okay. So we go in to the auditorium or the banquet hall or whatever it is, and we're sitting there and they introduce Dennis Ratner, the owner of the company, and it's this guy. He's been walking around here in a flannel shirt, jeans with holes in the knees, and Birkenstocks. He looks like a hippie, like some old hippie. You never intimate. This man has a private jet, okay? And so another thing that I like to tell stylists when I'm coaching them is that it's not your job to count your clients' money for them. It's your job to recommend to them what they need, and it's
Mhm.
up to them to decide if they can afford it or not.
Right.
But I always use that story about Dennis Ratner because I would have never looked at that man and thought that he had a private jet. He literally looked like just an old hippie. He looked like he was going to go out front and light a joint as soon as this thing was over with.
Oh
I
my, what
never
a
would have
good
thought that.
lesson.
And maybe he did. I mean, those two things aren't mutually exclusive, but he has his own private jet, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Like, I just, no words, because I love that story. I love that we're talking about this because I don't know if this generation of stylists coming in
Mm-hmm.
even think about that or even like consider
Mm-hmm.
that, because I'm all about specializing. I'm all about like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you do and this is your price point and awesome. But like, it's a trade-off. It's all, everything's a trade-off. Like what you are getting, you are inevitably rejecting as well. So what a great lesson. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God. Okay, Tasha, time is escaping. So what is your version of success?
I love this question. My son and my grandson just started their own podcast, and I was their first guest. And they asked me this question, and
Oh
they
my
caught me.
God.
But so now that I've answered this for them, I already know the answer. So for me, my version of success is a couple of things. One, I'm not an extravagant spends. I'm not an extravagant spender,
Okay.
but I want what I want when I want it. So
Mm,
I like being able to go to the grocery store and just put the things that I need in my cart and not have to worry about whether or not I'm going to pay, be able to
mm-hmm,
pay for it.
mm-hmm,
I like to be able to go on vacation and sit on somebody's beach because, like I said earlier, I'm a beach
mm-hmm,
bum. Like those things definitely factor into my version of success. But I think the bigger point for me is like my grandkids come and spend time with me in the summer. And I was able to take 2 weeks off so that I could just be present and engaged with them. And I had the option to take 2 weeks off. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, oh, you know what? I'm taking these 2 weeks off and that's that. And so the ability to be able to do that without asking permission, I think, was the epitome of success for me
mm-hmm,
because in 1998, I could not have done that. Number one, I couldn't have paid my bills if I had taken 2 weeks off work. But number two, I would have had to ask permission, and the answer would have been no because stylist salons are perpetually understaffed.
mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
So,
Okay. So for the listeners who are totally resonating with you right now, what do you have going on in your programs and your coaching that they can reach out to you and work with you and connect with you?
yeah, so I would say right now, the best way to connect with me, well, I have a website, tasha-davis.com. The best way to connect with me is either via my podcast, listen there, I am working on some courses. I have a course up on my website right now. Do not buy it. And not because it's not good. It actually is. The information in it is really good. But I put it together probably a year or more ago when I was less technologically advanced. Not that I'm amazingly technologically advanced now, but it's just not as seamless
Mhm.
and nice as I would like it to be. So I'm actually planning to relaunch that in the next 30 to 60 days.
Awesome.
So the best way to connect with me would either be through my website or through my IG at Auntie Hair Coach. If you have a question right now, I'm just answering questions, to be honest, as long as you don't mind me using them for content. Um,
Mm,
because
love
if you
it.
ask me a question, I'm liable to make a reel or something about it. I won't name your name though.
Everything is content. Everything is content.
Seriously.
Oh my God. I love it. So we'll definitely put your website and your links
Mhm.
in the show notes. But what is your Instagram so that they can reach out to you?
You can find me at Auntie Hair Coach, AUNTIE Hair Coach.
Love it. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Thank you so much for coming on. I love what we talked about. Like, I was not expecting that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay, guys, I will talk to you soon. Be sure to connect with Tasha, the Auntie Hair Coach. Until next time, bye.
Bye.